Welcome to this edition of the Flavor of the Month. I'm Frank Costella Jr., the President and CEO of the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I am joined this month by Mr. John Mazzetti, and he's the Secretary for the Italian Center here in the city of Poughkeepsie. Mr. Mazzetti, thank you so much for being our Flavor of the Month. I appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today. And I want to talk about the Italian Center, of course, and a little bit about the history. Let's start there.
Oh, the history. Goes back a ways. I don't know if you're familiar where the location is. I know you are, Frank, but many of the folks looking at this might not be. And it's located right in downtown Poughkeepsie, if you will. Reference point post office, and we're behind the City Hall post office. Why I'm approaching it this way, Frank, is because if you try to drive up to our address, which is actually 227 Mill Street, you can't get in the parking lot. So you have to approach it from Mansion Street, and that's our parking lot. How did it start? Well, I know that you know, because of your family background and roots, that a lot of Italians came into this region in the 20s, 27, that era. In fact, I was told and read that there were as many Italian Americans that came from the Mezzogiorno area, which would be from Rome down. More males here at that time than in Italy, because America represented opportunity to them. And they used to come over individually, not with their families, and then call for their families later. So these neighborhoods and conclaves grew, and for every group, not only the Italians. But during the 20s, most of the men were laborers of one sort or another, carpenters, bricklayers, whatever. And they worked individually, or maybe for a small firm. They didn't have insurance. And it really started as a mutual aid insurance company, if you will. And they banded together, and they actually would look after each other if a male or a family came into trouble or whatever. So that's really the root piece of that. And in 27 or so, there were about 6 or 8 different clubs in Poughkeepsie that were Italian-oriented. There were also other ethnicities that had their own clubs. You know, still today we have Germania, German. They play soccer and stuff like that. But there used to be an Irish club, and just every Polish American club. And they've all gone. There aren't many around anymore. In fact, Germania is the only other one, and they focus in our area, and they focus on soccer and that type of thing. We focus on food, fun, and making wine and family, right? So that was the beginning of it. We have about 500 members, and there's a ladies' auxiliary, and then there's NIDO, which is a cultural end of it. We're getting more into the cultural aspect because we're into 3rd generations now, and there's all kinds of lectures and programs and things like that to satisfy that group. Now there's a great group for quality entertainment and dancing and that type of thing. And the Italian Center has switched all gears, and we're into that type of thing. And last night, for example, we had the Jersey Boys, a show. The Jersey Boys, it was a dinner show, and dinner and a show. And it started at 7 o'clock, and we were out of there by 9:30, quarter to 10, except for some late holder-honors who wanted to stay around. It was just a great, you can't imagine the enjoyment you get, from having that kind of entertainment.
Right, so the Italian Center is switching gears a little bit. You're adapting to the times from what it used to be now to really, like you had mentioned, you're looking at the 3rd generation of families that are coming in some cases the 4th generation, and they're looking for the cultural aspect of it. Right. Maybe they've never been to Italy. They may not speak Italian, so they're looking for those resources and for that connection to their heritage. And the Italian Center is that resource for them now. So you have a lot of programs in and around that are starting up, but I really want to talk about some of the festivities that you have going on throughout the course of the year. Can you tell us what happens at the Italian Center from a festival standpoint?
Well, we have our annual festival. We switched it from the fall of the year because everybody was having them in the fall, and with all the tastings and things like that happen. So we moved it from that time of year to the spring, and it really worked this year. We did as well, if not better, than usual. What's unique about our festa is we put it on ourselves. In other words, there's not outside vendors or anything like that. All the food is cooked by the Italian Center. The Italian Center members are the volunteers. It's just the entertainment most of the time is of Italian in nature, if you will, you know. So that's a great event, and people who used to live in that old neighborhood come back to that neighborhood, and I see myself so many people that I wouldn't see them if it wasn't for that. And I think that really makes it, makes it joyful. Elderly people who, haven't seen, families, and it's just a great time. So that's one of our high points. The other type of thing we do, basically, along with the cultural piece that we're starting to get into, is we've changed our venue from strictly club orientation, I should say, to where we want the community to become involved. So we want them to taste our food. We want them to enjoy themselves in our house, and all of those. Casa Italiano is what the original name of the Italian Center was, okay? House of the Italians, right? So we've had to switch because those neighborhoods aren't there anymore. Where before, everybody lived in the neighborhood and they went over and played cards and smoked cigars, okay? You don't do that anymore. It's just not in it. You're not in it if you're doing it. So we've had to change our culture to sort of coincide with the day. And that's why we're having more dinner shows, why we have dancing every Friday night. We have a band every Friday night at the Italian Center. And the place is jammed. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
So what you're telling me is it's gone from a closed-door members-only club, and your doors are now open to the public, for the public to come in and enjoy some of the culture and some of the festivals, and also you're having dinner shows, and I believe you're also open from a restaurant standpoint.
Oh, we're open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And last night was Sunday, wasn't it?
Is it reservation only? Sometimes.
It's according to what's going on. Last night was definitely, you have to call for a reservation. We do specials, like we started with a lobster bake, if you will, for $27.95. We were selling 80 and 90 lobsters a night on a Wednesday and Thursday night. I mean, it's unheard of. It's unheard of.
So you have a whole host of events and listing of things and schedule of all this stuff happening. And I know you send out a newsletter, and you're holding that right here in your hand. And how does someone get onto your mailing list? Do they have to be a member to
Well, to get the physical one, you do. Or go into the club and pick it up. There's a bunch of them there. But basically, this is for members, not members only, but for members. And we distribute it that way. Of course, we want people to pick it up electronically.
Sure.
The printing business, right, Frank? Pick it up electronically. So, of course, on our theitaliancenter.com, every one of our newsletters are there.
So it's theitaliancenter.com, and all the listing of your events can be found there on your website, theitaliancenter.com. Right. And of course, it is theitaliancenter.com. This is the Italian Center for us here in the Hudson Valley region. Really, I think that this has really been the staple for us here in the Hudson Valley from an Italian standpoint, getting the resource of culture and so forth. Right. So tell us a little bit about the future generations coming in and what they're looking for from the Italian Center.
I think they're looking for their roots, and I see that more and more want to learn Italian, maybe not write it or anything, but talk it or to some degree, learn some sentences, stuff like that, because they're not getting it at home. See, my parents and grandparents spoke Italian at home, so I was able to pick a lot of it up. And they didn't even teach it in Highland High School when I was there. Imagine that, all the Italians that live in Highland. I remember a couple of us went and petitioned the school to put Italian in the curriculum, and we took Italian for 4 years, okay? Because, as you know, as in any language, there's many dialects. And, you know, the Sicilians talk one, and, you know, and I'm sure German's the same way, or any. So we wanted to learn the real Italian, if you will, okay? The real Italian, that's what they call it, right? Instead of a dialect. So my group started wanting to do that. And then we phased out of that, and now we're coming back again. So I think we have to capitalize on that, jump on it, and make it work. And it's unfortunate that a lot of other ethnic clubs, because that's what we have to call them, had to go out of business before they realized what was really happening. So yeah, it's survival. We have a public license. You can't have a club license and have outsiders come into the club, you know, or you lose your license and get fined. So the Elks, for example, okay, you have to go into the Elks with a member Elk, and you can't put money on the bar. The Elk has to buy the drink. So we're never going to make it that way. It just didn't work, you know. And of course we had the older members who wanted to keep it the way it was. They didn't want to disturb it. And there were, you know, the group like us who said, it's not going to work. We're going to go out of business. Do we want to go out of business, you know? And we started questioning ourselves. And this is what's evolved.
So from provincial nights to the spaghetti dinners to the car show that is now going to become an annual thing, the Italian Center has really reinvented itself. And I'm so happy to have you here, John, as our flavor of the month. I could continue on with this for a couple more hours. Of course, it's my heritage, as you know, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart, especially the food. And I think that's one of the main aspects, if anything, to take from this program today.
So I'm bringing you an application.
An application, see that? And this is my encouragement to sign up.
See that?
And I'm going to make the commitment right here on our Flavor of the Month show that I will become a member of the Italian Center. I have never been a member, but however, I have been to many of the functions there. I've been to the car show and provincial nights and so on. And I do appreciate you being here with us today.
It's my pleasure.
And that's all we have time for here on the Flavor of the Month. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.